should India ban social media for children? How do we define children? The world over, anyone under the age of 16, which means even young adults, should not have access to social media, say many countries, the latest being the United Kingdom.
No, Sanket, there are no two ways around it. The impact of digital social media engagement in children and teenagers is a cause of concern. There are no two ways about it.
Attain the age of 18, practically you can request these social media companies to delete all your data so that children have their own right. The moment they attain that age of legality, they are legal. Can we have something like that coming in India as well, where we force?
The problem is that those who think technology is a solution to this problem don't realize how hard solving this problem from a tech perspective is. So a psychologist will think about it from a psychologist's lens, a lawyer will think about it from a lawyer's lens. We need to bring everyone together and have a more meaningful conversation.
It's high time that we need to understand that is ban realistic? Yes, it is realistic. Our country is able to do it? Yes, countries are able to do it. Do we want to do it for the future of our country? Yes, we want to do it. Should we do it right away? Yes, I would have seen that not right away. We should have done that long back.
Hello and welcome. My name is Sanket Upadhyay. You're watching me on TheFederal. The show is called AI with Sanket. This is the AI of news because news in India today requires not artificial but analytical intelligence. The UK has joined an ever-increasing long list of countries that have banned social media for children. The decision was taken by Australia, Norway, France, many other countries, and these are developed economies and developed nations who have, after much debate and deliberation, decided that social media pose a major risk to children, and the only feasible solution is not a structured phase out or regulation, but a ban. The engagements should be banned. And since the UK has now done it, and this list is growing, one really wonders that while there is chatter in India, there is conversation in India, courts have spoken about it, MPs in their individual capacity have spoken about it, states and their representatives have talked about it, we still are far away from taking that bold, big decision. In the Indian context, where social media affects far more children simply because of our population than, say, a United Kingdom or France or Australia, what should our response be? Should there be a graded regulation of social media in India? Will it even work? Or should there be a complete ban? Drop the guillotine. What really should be the Indian solution? Should social media for kids under the age of 16 be banned in our country? We discuss. Okay, so an important discussion, should India ban social media for children? And how do we define children? The world over, anyone under the age of 16, which means even young adults, should not have access to social media, say many countries, the latest being the United Kingdom. What is the opinion? Let's find out. I have with me Nikhil Pava, is the founder and editor of Media Nama. Khushbu Jain is a cyber law expert. And one opinion which should be very, very important and should be discussed is that of a psychiatrist, Dr. Sameer Parikh. Thank you very much for your time. Let's quickly get in opening comments. First, your comment, Nikhil. What is your opinion? The social media ban the world over by very developed countries versus the argument and the conversation we are having in India.
So look, there is research, Sanket, that access to dopamine hits and like doom scrolling, constantly changing images is harmful for children at a young age. And it wires their brains differently. It leads to attention deficit. It leads to exacerbation of certain traits which are not good for children. Concentration gets impacted. And so the problems are very real, but we also have to take into account that, the solution is not a ban. A solution is forcing platforms to improve their mechanisms, because these dopamine hits are a feature of the platform, and the features of the platforms can be changed. There are also risks of bullying on social media and public social media. So, different platforms now have specific apps for kids that restrict certain functionality. A ban will only move things to the extreme, and it will basically lead to kids moving on to other platforms, into unregulated platforms, because the ones that are engaging with governments are actually the more responsible ones. They are larger platforms like Instagram and and Facebook and Snap and TikTok. Globally, that is, TikTok is banned in India. So I think the solution is, banning a platform doesn't solve the problem, because they'll move on to other platforms. YouTube also has shorts. You can't ban YouTube because it's an incredible educational resource for children. So I don't see bans as a solution, and I don't see that there is sufficient research going into platform improvement versus bans. And the UK also has an age appropriate design code with design guidelines for platforms, which, if implemented and enforced in the fullest, will provide a solution to this problem, in my opinion at least. So I think there is much to be discussed over here, because there is no one size fits all solution. A ban is an extreme solution, and it has other issues also, which we can get into.
Yeah, sure. One by one. Dr. Samir Parikh, the psychiatrist's point of view. I want to know from you, why is it that the very developed nations, France, England, Australia, they have debated all these points and then arrived at a conclusion that it would be responsible for us as responsible democracies to not expose our children to social media, whereas we debate the various aspects of whether it will be effective or not. I want to know, how many cases do you encounter of parents coming to you and talking about social media addiction among children?
No, Sanket, there are no two ways around it. The impact of digital social media engagement in children and teenagers is a cause of concern. There are no two ways about it. What route one wants to take to do what can be secondary. But the primary issue doesn't really have much left for debate. I mean, like what Mr. Pao was saying, yes, from the attention deficit neurocognitive component to the emotional component of self esteem, body image, to the conformity component, which is how you are thinking, your social views, also the aspect of cyberbullying, and this list can go on and on, right? Ask yourselves a question: if children want to drive at a certain age, would you be okay with that? Why are globally age norms for substances like alcohol? Why would you want to first train somebody how to drive a car, give them a license, and then take them on the road? Understand this. What has happened here is we have failed to upskill young people vis-a-vis education. Also, parents like all of us, vis-a-vis various education, to be able to deal with, navigate, mitigate all these aspects which were not present, let's say, 2 decades back. They've just been bombarded. So we don't have the skill set. We have a sheer of flood happening without your skill set, right? And that's something one needs to understand. Do I like bans? I don't. I mean, no mental health professional is going to come and talk to you and say, okay, let's go ahead and ban things. But do I wait till we find solutions? Do I wait for platforms to improvise themselves? Are platforms within my reach? Do I wait till all parent population understand? Do I wait till education globally incorporates digital media literacy and various aspects of it, and let um, generations struggle with it? Mental, physical, social impact is there. How you go about it is up for debate. But if there are around us in this world, when you are seeing some countries taking a stance, it's worth thinking about what made them reach this point. Learnings have to be starting sometimes there, not going 10 years behind and then say, okay, now let's start the process. This is children well-being has to be first, everything else secondary. You first figure that out, and then let the paraphernalia find its own ways.
Okay, Khushbu Jain, where are we legally on the issue of social media ban debate in India? Because there was a lot of chatter, there was a lot of conversation about it, but where are we legally?
See, legally, right now, there has been no step towards, though there has been an intention that was being put across. There have been different states who put across some sort of bill that we should also move towards banning social media at a certain age group or children which is under 18 in India as an overall blanket. After the Australia came in place, after so many of different prime ministers and presidents of different countries, developed countries for that matter, put across and the study shown across, there have been debates and there have been bills in fraction here and there. There have been some of the MLA or MP speaking, but if you see overall in India, we do not have any such law which talks about regulating social media whereas children is concerned. If I may point out, we have got DPDP Act, that is Digital Personal Data Protection Act, which will be coming in force in the May 27 year 2027 May, and that talks about that behavioral analytics or anything that is shown by any data fiduciary to children which can have a negative impact on them is where the social media or the data fiduciary will be held liable or punishable of approximately 150 to 200 crore of a penalty. I think that's the only positive one that we are seeing that may come up in the year 2027. But right now, if I have to say, we don't have any such law enforced in the country, but we do see harms. We do see people coming and talking about it who are entased with the lawmaking, but no such law.
Nikhil Pawar, just quickly coming back to you. You see, I understand the point that you're making that apps can restrict functionality independently and you can work with these, get these apps to come under the regulatory framework. I understand that point that you're making because that way governments will know more of what responsible apps seem to be doing and will have greater sway and control. And if you ban, then kids will move towards completely unregulated platforms and you will have no control over them. I understand that point. But why is it that this same argument, I'm sure must have been made, did not convince the Brits, the French, the Australians, the Norwegians, and all, I would say, pretty evolved democracies?
So Sanket, I can't speak for them, and because the UK also has an excellent age-appropriate design code, and many platforms have implemented it, but they haven't implemented it in all earnest, to be honest. So that code has to be evolved and improved upon. The fact is, the moment you start banning these apps, see, look, a 16-year-old is not a 13-year-old, is not an 8-year-old, is not a 3-year-old. You need to have a graded approach and you need to give parents control over their child's access because agency develops over time. I have a 3-year-old and he has no access to devices, and I plan to hold off devices as much as possible because I've seen the harms that like there are children who cannot eat their food without looking at a screen, and that's what's really causing the alarm, because parents are at one level helpless in terms of enforcing control over their child, and they're also being lackadaisical, and there's just because they cannot sit with their child and read them a story, they just hand them a device and let the child get busy on the device. Right? So there is a parental problem here, but you're also then removing agency of parents like me who want to gradually introduce their children to different things that are actually educational and useful for them and keep them away from dopamine. So there are parental control apps around. We need to educate them. You can run, for example, and you can enforce an APAR ID across schools in one way. You can add AI to the educational curriculum. Why can't you add digital literacy about usage of social media platforms as a part of the curriculum in the same manner? If you can do AI, you can surely do this. See, children want to be social. Being social online with their friends is a part of their lives. They get their homework on WhatsApp sometimes, So there are groups that get formed where, let's say, that they're going for quizzes. That planning is happening on social media platforms at times. So they want to engage with their friends both offline and online. If you ban them, that engagement will move to platform which you cannot control. So we need to create a controlled, enabling environment for them. Because I had social media when I was just finished school, and so many friends I made were online friends that I'm still friends with 20 years later. Not all social media is harmful. Not all people on social media are harmful. This is a disproportionate action. We need to have better controls in place. And just because you don't want to enforce it properly, you don't want to force platforms to enforce restrictions properly, you can't do a binary zero or one thing, because children's agency development is not zero and one. It's gradual. They will move on to social media after they cross 16. That's a very sudden, drastic exposure. I also take umbrage to this equivalence of social media to alcohol or tobacco or driving, because this is social activity. It's not necessarily harmful for your health in a manner that alcohol or tobacco are. That there is a clear zero and one situation there, that alcohol at a young age is harmful, tobacco at any age is harmful. uh, Driving has to be in a controlled manner. So just like driving is in a controlled manner, it has an age restriction of 18. You can get a driver's license before a learner's license before 18 as well. We can gradually give children agency over the internet as well. So I disagree with this equivalence with alcohol and tobacco. It doesn't make any sense. You need to allow children to engage with each other socially and learn about the harms of social media, of misuse of social media, learn about, for example, self-image harms, etc., so that when they go into that environment, it's not a drastic shift for them. And we need to evolve our education system for this. You can't just dump them onto social media at the age of 16 with no prior experience.
I get the point that you're making, but before I come to you, Dr. Samir Parikh, you see, from the time that Nikhil seems to be referring to is the time of ICQ Messenger, Yahoo Messenger, MSN Messenger, and I remember the dial-up modem, because this was the time of our growing up as well. We too were in school, and I think the exposure to the internet and people and the perils are way more than what they were back then. Of course,
I would
there was
disagree,
problem
Sanket.
back then as well. But you see,
There were problems back
asking
then,
people
and
their ASL in the 90s
no, but
to
even in the
deep
early
fakes
2000s,
and
Sanket.
AIs. Yeah.
No, disagree completely. I was one of the early users of Twitter. I only had an anonymous handle at that point in time, which is my Twitter handle now, Nixon, because I wasn't comfortable showing my real profile on that platform at that point in time. There have been harms on social media. I was on Bolt, a proper social media network, in the early 2000s, which shut down in 2007 or 2008. Social media has been around, not just ICQ and Messenger. The fact is, people they control what they show about themselves on social media, and social media also gives people agency. In the sense, there are things about what's going on in your life that you may not talk about with your real name is attached to it, but you may do that anonymously. There are instances where I have done that, and I've had support from other anonymous people. There are friends of mine who are LGBTQ who have come out on social media anonymously before coming out publicly. It is a safer space for them because those are things that they can't even discuss with their parents. You lock up that ability to express yourself, people will find a way. In Australia, the ban is not working. Children are finding mechanisms and bypasses. They're using VPNs. In Indonesia, where facial recognition for Roblox has been introduced, the facial recognition has been bypassed by a child putting, literally putting a smile and eyes on a thumb and rotating it to try and indicate it's a human being, right? So today, AI generated images are easy to create and fool facial recognition platforms. People will find a way. By banning them, you're only indicating that they will now move to unregulated, unrestricted platforms which
Okay,
are
I get
maybe
your
not
point.
as responsible or safe. You have to have a smarter way of doing things than just zero and one bans. It's extremely, and I'm telling you this is largely being pushed from what I understand, by platforms that have lost advertising to social media.
Oh, okay, conspiracy theory. But I'm sure there must be sound logic to this.
No,
However,
it's come first in Australia. In
okay,
Australia,
sure.
you look at forcing social media platforms to pay for news. The same platforms have also called for the ban on social media for children.
Okay, okay.
And
Dr. Samir Parekh, just quickly coming back to you now. Your views on responsible social media versus no social media. I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example,
No,
my
you
own
rephrase.
example.
No,
I
you
have,
rephrase.
Dr.
No,
Parekh,
you
I have,
Sanket,
can you hear me?
rephrase your choices. Rephrase your choices. Harmful social media, no social media, good social media. Put three choices there. You
Okay,
don't get to
sure.
I
choose.
agree.
You don't get to choose
Sure, sure.
one side. Yeah.
I get it.
Now
Now,
you.
now I just want to give you my own example. I am a father to a 15-year-old daughter and a 13-year-old son who has turned 13 only today, and is very excited about entering the teens. And because of their exposure to social media and AI softwares, I try to do a little bit of cheating by, you know, giving them a question paper set on Chat GPT to prepare them for their examinations. And in that, I accidentally mentioned the name, that prepare a question paper for this student of this school. And both of them walked up to me and said, "Why have you put our name and our school on uh, an AI app? You should not. This is invading into our privacy." So, as 15 and 13-year olds, they tutored me on safe internet. So, Dr. Parikh, do you feel that it is important to have gradual educated exposure rather than no exposure?
See, Sanket, our problem is that we lose ourselves in the intellectualization of some of these issues. We need to look at the core aspect. Behavioral addiction now is a known entity, right? I mean, it's a codable illness. Second aspect is the same pathologies which happen with various forms of behavioral aspect, which is the dopaminergic surge, the neurocognitive aspect I'm talking about, are a cause of concern. The issue here, like I said earlier, also, you'll rarely find a mental health professional who'll be saying ban this, ban that, because you understand that power, putting something, especially enforcement, in a growing individual brings about a lot of other aspects as well into play in terms of will, in terms of pressure, so on and so forth. What I recognize and see, I see the world from a very different angle. I see the world where people have already had problems and then they come to me. And this is several scores and scores and scores of very young people who come to us. So, if you would have been told a decade back that would you think that somebody would require support for, let's say, addictive behavior of digital work? Would you have thought of that? You would have not, neither would I have. My concern is, like I said earlier, the speed at which we need to ensure the guardrails has to be better. If the speed of the guardrails is not good enough, then you really don't have a choice but to put a pause until your guardrails are back on track. You can always unpause, but we don't get to choose all sides of it. We can't cherry pick this. You need to look at, and all of the anecdotal examples, I can give mine, you can give yours. That's not statistic. What percentage of young people are struggling? How are they struggling? What is the impact? Why are global mental health concerns? Why are global concerns around addictive behavior? What are platforms already doing? What things have been tried by various policymakers have failed or succeeded? While that is happening, how can we work on education? What is a timeline today? Is there a timeline where we can be confident that, okay, an algorithm will not be so powerful to have an influence on a young, formative mind that they would be still able to understand what else is happening and not merely an algorithm? Because right now the algorithm seems to be more powerful. So we need to understand this. The issue is not of ban or not. That's just one aspect of it. The issue is, what are you doing to prevent the harms? And if you
Correct.
can't prevent the harms, then you damn well shut it.
I get the point that you're making. I understand it. Yeah, Nikhil, just one moment. Let me speak to Khushbu once. Khushbu, you see, there is also this whole thing about a kidfluencer economy, which is also catching up in India. It's a huge market all over the world. It's a big market in India also. And on many occasions, it has been seen that kids, sometimes against their will, are used by their parents to make money on social media. So parents are the violators of their child's privacy for profit. And there is this whole thing about regulating the kidfluencer economy also, and there are many parent organizations who don't want that to happen because it's a source of livelihood.
I think that's the immediate harm that we see of social media and how social media has brought in that culture where we are okay in putting our children in the forefront to earn money without understanding what kind of harm it can cause. And if we see two people in the park and two people in the school who have been earning out of it, there would be 20 more, then there would be 20,000 more. And that's what we are seeing today. It's literally last 5 years that this entire industry has developed, or we are hearing from people that, oh, you can earn like this also. And I think every third person who wants their now child the moment they have been born to make their page and put it across so that they gain the influence, they gain the people into it and continue into it. I think that's what I'm signing. That's what I'm talking about. That the invisible harm that is caused by social media is something none of us are talking about. This is practically invisible harm, which makes us not think, which makes us stop thinking about good and bad, right and wrong for us, for our children. And I think that's what this entire social media and the algorithms is all about. They want you to be there, they make you hooked to it, they give you these rebates and these things, which practically makes you stop thinking from whether this will have an harm to my child in the future. Imagine a scenario where a child is being put across where he's naked or is doing something very funny, which all of us find very funny and very cute, and because of that the traction increases and there would be more number of likes and people watching it. Now imagine the scenario, that child, that video of that child will be forever there with him once he's 18. Forget about 18. Let's say the child wants to become a politician tomorrow or become a teacher tomorrow or any profession for that matter. That video keeps haunting him without he realizing it. There is a law in California, CCPA, that is something like we have DPDP Act, something like that we have in California as well, which says that when you attain the age of 18, practically you can request these social media companies to delete all your data, so that children have their own right. The moment they attain that age of legality, they're legal. Can we have something like that coming in India as well, where we force, see, technology is there, laws are there where these social media platforms are implementing it. What is the harm in us also asking these technologies to have these measures in place so that we allow something like that to happen? You would not believe, I've got cases in the court where we have got somebody who's one example where he's a famous TV actor who was being found drunk and drive. He underwent the punishment. After the punishment he has gone through, he had difficulties while he wanted to get married because those pictures were everywhere the moment that search used to happen. The problem came in his kids admission in school, where this created a much of a problem. So a person is practically punished thrice for the crime that he has committed. Now imagine when children are being put across these things. So I think that's the most important point we should see here, not the cyberbullying. I mean, these are the harms which are being caused, not the grooming, not other things. These are there and these are visibly there and we need to act upon. But the invisible harm this social media practically is playing, where children do not understand, parents do not understand, Teachers do not understand. There is nobody who understands, and you're practically in their system without understanding, and you're being part and parcel, and you're practically giving ammunitions to that system. I think that's where we need to understand, and I think that's where these developing nations are coming. That no controls will be able to help us. It has to be banned when it comes to children, because when it comes to anxiety, sleep deprivation, body image issues, these are something which are not even available or visible. Your child will have a different mood or mood swings. You will be like, this is because of the growing age. You don't understand what invisible harm must have been caused to that child because of social media. So practically I understand the good part of
But
it.
Khushbu,
And
how do you quantify then? As a concerned parent, I want to know, how do you quantify that this issue which is happening is an invisible harm attributed to digital media or social media and not the growing up years?
see, that's where
Because
the
law
problem
is
comes
based
in.
on quantifiables.
That's where if you'll see the studies which clearly puts across that this harm. I think the person before me was is will be able to have that understanding, that the psychologists have put across lot of studies into it. There have been studies done by different agencies, and these are part and parcel of the European and also the Australian lawmaking part of it. If you'll see, the social media ban in the Australia had all these things as part of their debates into it, where they have put across these debates, where they say very clearly that these invisible harms are caused, and you can't differentiate, you can't understand. And because you can't understand, we can't leave it on parents practically today to have their children where they can understand and disseminate between these two. Number one. Number two, the parents today cannot even control. I'm very happy with Nikhil's upbringing style of their child, that not exposing it, and kudos to you. But see, the moment they go to school, you practically would not be able to control. You will become the most hatred person in the child's life if you control them. Then you will see that 5 children are on the social media, my child is not on the social media. That will come very soon, not at this age, but growing age it will start coming in. And that's where they're saying that we cannot expect parents to practically have that understanding and control and education when it comes to social media. It's practically fighting against the technology. A harmless parent who doesn't understand technology, even if you and me understand technology, we don't understand the way social media platforms and their algorithms work. So practically forget about children. You, four of us, we are also so hooked to social media that we don't understand. We scroll and we get into it, and we scroll and a lot of things happen. Imagine we
I know
can't do that.
but I understand the point you're making, Nikhil, which is why, if you notice, what Dr. Parikh and Khushbu seem to be suggesting is you're talking about a introduction to social media in a phased manner, not banning because it will push kids to unregulated platforms. All of this comes out from a sense of self-responsibility or self-regulation, that I as a parent, or Nikhil Pava as a responsible parent, will keep his child away. But for how long? And do you have that requisite, or the public at large? These days I've come across a very famous word called sharenting. So instead of parenting, parents like sharing images of their children, and that concept is called sharenting. So when parents indulge openly in sharenting for some money in the kidfluencer economy, what sort of responsibility are we talking about? I mean, by
So
that logic,
actually,
there should be no rules, because
actually,
everybody
Sanket,
should be responsible.
so Sanket, it's even worse actually. You have institutions now, including schools, preschools, that are sharing photographs of children playing in their business or whatever in their environment on social media. We have actively written, because we don't allow any of our relatives, we don't do it, we don't put our child's photograph anywhere, because I'm acutely aware of the problems of facial recognition. A preschool that my child had signed up for actually they had an app for sharing photos of children and activity the children are doing, and that app had facial recognition built in. So we sent in a withdrawal of consent notice to them, after which we only got stuff on email and not in the app, because we are responsible in that sense, right? So look, I look at all sides. I know tech, I know law, I know policy. I've been reading up on how to become a better parent. And I understand that not everyone is going to put in that kind of effort. My child has asked us for devices, and we've explained to him how this is not good for him at this age. He's just 3, by the way, but we've kept it. It's our responsibility to explain to him and reason with him that this is not good. And hopefully, as he grows older, even if he demands it, uh, we will deal with that situation when we come to it. The problem is, and if and I agree that there are parents who are violators with this influencer economy, and schools are violators in that sense, and we need to bring restrictions on that kind of an activity. Khushbu mentioned the DPDP Act. The problem is, and I wish we had a CCPA like provision with the right to deletion in the DPDP Act, but our government, in its own wisdom, has said that publicly available personal data uh, is outside the ambit of the Data Protection Act, which is a failure on the part of the government because they shouldn't have allowed it. The algorithmic restrictions about behavioral targeting, I feel, should be implemented immediately. We shouldn't have to wait for a year for this because children should not be targeted from a behavioral perspective. And in the rules that have come out, they're also trying to build in carve outs there where only if a child declares that they are a child will a parental consent be required. Now, there has to be a better way of doing the things, and we have pointed out that this is a problematic mechanism because it means you will have to do facial recognition on everyone in order to prevent a child from using. And facial recognition itself is not foolproof. The problem is that those who think technology is a solution to this problem don't realize how hard solving this problem from a tech perspective is. So a psychologist will think about it from a psychologist lens, a lawyer will think about it from a lawyer's lens. We need to bring everyone together and have a more meaningful conversation instead of bans. And I disagree. We cannot assume that the developed economies have taken a considered decision on this, have taken, because there is criticism of this mechanism across the board, even in those countries, but the governments have pushed it up, and especially when they are close to elections or the government itself is in a brittle position, like in the UK right now. So we cannot. Every law is a negotiation. We have to be more careful about just saying just because Western countries are doing it, that is the right approach. That's not how we should see it. The
Okay.
fact is, right now, one important point. What's happening right now is that we are conflating social media culture, which is evolved because of how people use it, with how algorithms evolve, which is what social media platforms are responsible for. We cannot equate culture and blame that on the platforms. And the responsibility of parents cannot be set aside saying that parents have no control. Your kids are, I'm very happy to hear what they told you because they've understood responsible behavior. You cannot hold a platform responsible for the behavior of other users, but you can get a platform to restrict certain behavior for certain types of users so that they don't face those issues. So we need to have a more meaningful, thoughtful conversation with all of us on this panel, coming together to debate these issues so that we come up with the right solution. Because right now, everyone thinks that their solution is the best, and the solution that they're giving is someone else's problem. We are externalizing the cost to technology, and I can tell you, tech will not solve this problem.
Okay, Dr. Parekh, just quickly coming back to you, since very short on time, but Dr. Parekh, towards the end of your last comment, you said that either look for ways to fix this or just be done with it or remove it. Because you understand as a psychiatrist the problems that this platform or the very uh, unregulated manner in which responsible people use it, the impact it is causing or the hurt it is causing the children, which is why you were perhaps forced to come up with this assessment. I want to know, why do you feel that it has to be a very strong regulation or a complete removal?
Actually, I am more focused on education. I think if strong, clear education can be ensured with a timeline, while parallel, very strong, clear policy around regulation have to be done in a timeline. We need to know what that timeline is, when can we achieve it or not. If the timeline is long and we aren't sure about it, then you might as well switch it off. But I am not willing to wait to have hundreds and thousands of young people go through concerns around their mental health and their well being because a handful of adults wanted to intellectualize and debate over a coffee table conversation. Children's future is not a coffee table conversation.
Okay. Yeah. Khushbu, quick closing comments. One moment, Nikhil. Yeah. Khushbu, you wanted to come in? Sorry, I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
I'm audible? Okay. Okay. So let me put it across that social media is harming us in knowing and unknowing or visible and invisible ways, be it higher rates of anxiety, depression in teens, disrupted sleep because of late night scrolling, body image issues, cyberbullying, grooming, and so on and so forth. With that, the invisible harm that is there and the gradual loss of attention span, constant social media comparison that keeps coming, understanding your self-worth. We are seeing people committing suicides because social media is not just social media platform. It is also the gaming platform. We are talking about the whole of the platform per se over here. So if you'll see through, all this has created a effect on the generation which is right now the future of our country, the children that we are talking about. And here, if you talk about that, let there be a control, no, I am saying that the harms are visible. None of us, four of us, are not denying the harm over here. We are accepting the harm that has been caused. We understand these platforms, and these platforms also understand that the harms are being caused. Still, nothing has been done. If nothing is done today, you can't expect a platform who thinks about its business, who's having algorithms in place where it pushes dirty content so that there are more people to watch. It's practically, it's going to think about its business. It's not going to talk about that, oh, your child should have a good content, or let me be a good parenting over there for your child. No, its entire business is to show you the content which can have that hooking part of it, and that algorithms work in that manner. I think looking at all of it, it's high time that we need to understand that, is ban realistic? Yes, it is realistic. Our country is able to do it? Yes, countries are able to do it. Do we want to do it for the future of our country? Yes, we want to do it. Should we do it right away? Yes, I would have seen that not right away. We should have done that long back. But right now, we should not have this debate. We should practically do it. We cannot. I'm again saying that, pardon me, we cannot expect parents to fight. Education can be one side of it, but trust me, this education doesn't work against these algorithms and these technologies which these platform, social media platform, induce and put it across. You cannot fight. You will not even understand how you are being part and parcel of this entire system. So we cannot fight with this technology. Parents cannot fight. Trust me, parents
Yeah,
cannot
but then how
fight.
do you respond to what Nikhil is saying? That suppose if a ban is exacted, then you could be subjected to an even more opaque algorithm in some deep, deep
I'm coming
web
on that.
sort of an app.
We are not talking about complete ban of everything. If you look into Australia also as one of the best examples to put across, they are not saying entire social media ban. They are saying YouTube Kids is available for people. They are saying that messaging platform where they can communicate to each other is available to them. Apart from this, platforms like Instagram, platforms like Snapchat or Facebook, that's where that invisible harm of body image issues, low self-esteem, 10 hours of scrolling and scrolling and scrolling is happening, which is creating an anxiety and disruption in the entire teen and their mindset. And I think that's where the problem is arising. We can have that as a restriction. We can continue with other self which are regulated platforms which can still continue when it comes to direct messaging, when it comes to other. People will say there would be cyberbullying on these platforms as well. I'm saying let that be a gradual. The immediate harm or the maximum harm causing by the social media
Yeah,
is
the
visible.
problem is
Let
even
that be the
these
ban there.
kiddie apps or the kid version of the apps are also at the end of the day apps. No, they are also driven by algorithm. They will also be driven by, it's an attention economy. So it will also be driven by how much time you spend on the app. The rules of engagement will be the same. Nikhil wanted to come in and then we close this very
Very,
interesting discussion, I would say. Yeah.
very quickly, Sanket, I agree that, with YouTube Kids and the multiple platforms that are coming out with kid-specific apps, we need to also ensure that there's gradation so that children can gradually get agency, right? Like I said, a 13-year-old is not a 16-year-old, is not an 18-year-old. And we can't just dump them straight into the big bad world of social media straight away. There has to be, there's education that's necessary, because you have to keep engaging with them and teaching them the implications as they grow older, and they have to experience the environment and see the harms and learn how to respond and react to the environment. You don't just throw them into the deep end of the pool. And I object to the classification of this as an intellectual coffee table conversation. It is not. We have to find the right solutions, and for that we need to debate all solutions. An immediate ban will have second order effects, which may move people to platforms like end-to-end encrypted platforms which are purely messaging, where the same activity can continue. Algorithms are one part of the problem. Grooming is another part of the problem. You have to be more conscious about the decision that you take and consider what the reaction will be. We held a discussion on this in Bangalore, and I was stunned by the angry reaction from parents. And these are all tech savvy parents who don't want their agency over their children taken away from them as a guardian. See, you have speed of guardrails, like Dr. Parekh said, is important. But can you tell me what, as a country, we have done so far that you're going straight to a ban? What have we tried? What have we tested? What are the alternatives that we've considered? I go back to the DPDPA. You've actually enabled public sharing of children's information and taken them that out of the out of the privacy law. We need to first fix a mess that we have, and we need to look at all possible solutions before going straight to a ban, which is an extreme solution. I'm not discounting the problem that exists, but I'm saying we need to discuss, and this is not intellectualizing, we need to discuss all possible solutions because nobody understands all of the solutions and their implications. Everyone needs to bring their solutions to the table, and we need to debate it so that we understand the second order effects, we understand where these solutions fail. Technology, facial recognition fails all the time.
Sure. Okay. Dr. Parekh, want to give you a quick right to reply if you choose to exercise it, because you've been addressed.
I am very, very clear on this. Every person should be able to speak their mind. Like I said earlier, I look at the world when problems have crossed a certain limit and then they come to me, right? So when I look at a young life that I think could have been very different had there been not the kind of the exposure that a social media platform brought to that child, I will pick anything except that. That is the most humane, sensible thing to do. Be very, very clear about it. We have to understand the harms. The harms in years to come are only going to be more and more well defined, which is where the concern comes, Sanket. Do you always want this data to happen, which takes 10, 15 years, and then say, oh, we missed the bus? Like I said, I am not a firm believer of, in any case, I don't like the word ban it per se. But if I realize I don't have the collective ability, and when I say collective, it involves everyone, to be able to stop the harm now, I don't think I am willing to wait till lots of people come to some kind of a consensus to be able to do something and let continued harm happen. That's the limited point. Harm is there.
Yeah, of course. I mean, there is no disagreement that the harm is there. But thank you so much. Engaging discussion. I would also like to tell you that I have noticed something, that on social media, on digital media, many people don't like listening to this conversation. There is less engagement and less traction when it comes to children. You see, this is not something which is comfortable to hear, so people don't like talking about it. But still, these are conversations to be had. And thank you very much for taking out 45 minutes of your time, all three of you, to discuss something as important as this. Thank you so much, Khushbu, Dr. Parekh, as well as Nikhil Pahwa, for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you.